2007 in the race for Secretary of State. Delbert Hosemann, the Republican nominee, joins us now to tell us why he is the best candidate for the job. And real quickly, I want to give a plug here to the Hattiesburg American. If you're elected Secretary of State, what are you going to do about keeping dead people from voting? Obviously, there's some problems here voting in the state of Mississippi, and it continues even today.
It does. We started our campaign talking about voter ID and voter reform, constitutional voter reform. And as we go through it, we find more and more evidence of issues in Mississippi. And this one right here, for example, was Saturday's paper, in which they say Mr. James Barnes voted in the last election. Unfortunately, Mr. Barnes died a year and a half ago. There's another example of an individual that voted who was in the IC unit in Hattiesburg. So we have example after example. And what I found is we did some polling on this issue. 9 out of 10 Mississippians are in favor of a voter identification program. And of that, 81% of African Americans are in favor of a voter identification program. And probably most disturbing is that 86% of Mississippians that voted in the last election believe there's voter irregularities, just like this, that are going on during our election. We see them in Noxubee County, we see them in Benton County particularly. They've arrested 15 people there. So I think it's time for us to look not just at voter ID, that's a very critical part of that. And our polls also show, Brad, strangely enough, that 97% of the people who voted in this last election had a photo ID or a driver's license in their purse or their pocket. So almost everybody has got this, and that's a common knowledge. If we go to Walmart or whatever, we have to have an ID. Most voters already have that, and over 97% of them do. So that's not the issue. The issue is voter fraud. We need voter identification to keep dead people from voting, but really we need to address absentee ballot fraud, affidavit ballot fraud. We need to address the issues in which we're losing our election that is so key to our whole democracy and republic, that we have valid elections. That's the cornerstone that we go by. And what we're finding is that cornerstone is eroded by the facts that we have fraud. And when you go to your precinct, as I do, and the same people are at the precinct, I feel very comfortable at the polling places that my vote is secure. But in reality, your vote has already been bought in Benton County, Mississippi. And it's already been bought in Jefferson Davis County, Mississippi, where there's a statewide race. And so those of us, all of us voters who think it's so critical for the state to have a valid election process with integrity, we need to make sure that our representatives and our Secretary of State is very much in favor of a constitutional voter reform package, which includes this voter ID, but also these other issues that we've got. So you'll see us talking a lot in the last 2 weeks of the election about that.
So if you are in fact elected, you're going to push for this initiative, right?
I am, but right after the election, we're going to call an election task force of the clerks in the state of Mississippi, and I've already gathered a good bit of information. We've sent out the questionnaires already, and we're going to propose legislation to the legislature when they come back in January. They will include the meeting the court order that Mississippi is under now for voter ID. And then we're also going to propose these changes. We're going to look at early voting in Mississippi. I want that to be part of our discussion process, and I think that'll help on our absentee and affidavit votes.
All right, real quickly to the voters out there that may have been undecided at this point, what would you like to say to them about what separates you from your opponent?
Well, I think there are two or three things. First of all, I manage my own family farm. I have my own business, residential and commercial construction business, and I also have been a business lawyer representing businesses. And that's what the Secretary of State's office does. It manages 16 section lands, about 600,000 of them, public lands, about 800,000 of them, all the corporations and nonprofits, all of those are managed by the Secretary of State's office. So basically, my life's experiences here, my wife and I and our 3 children's life's experiences are about what the Secretary of State does. So I've got a good bit of experience. And the second thing I think is I have a vision on where we need to go here. Not only on voter ID, but there's business law reform that needs to become into this. It creates small businesses are the economic engine of Mississippi. And those small businesses travel around speed and consistent judicial opinions. And so we're going to do a new business code, and I brought one for you, Brad. 1987, this is what the business code would have looked like.
My cell phone.
Your cell phone in 1987. And this is what it looks like now. So there's been tremendous change in the way we do business in Mississippi, and we need to bring our business laws up to that, including a business court system. And I have a lot of experience in that. I think we're going to find a lot of support in the legislature to change our business codes, help closely held businesses we've got here who provide health care and jobs and buy equipment, that kind of thing.
Delbert Hosemann, Republican candidate for Secretary of State.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much for joining us. We really
Thank you,
appreciate
Brad.
it.
It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you as well. And for more on Commitment 2000.